You're listening to Boobies and Newbies, brought to you by the Frolic Podcast Network. Happy holidays, everybody, and welcome to Boobies and Newbies, the podcast that asks novice romance readers to think outside the dick in a box and brave the unbridled world of erotica. I'm your host, Kelly Reynolds, and it is time for a Steamy Spotlight author interview, holiday edition. This December marks our third annual 12 Days of Boobsmas Hoopla, a month-long celebration of holiday-themed romance novels and novellas, complete with 12 mini-pods and 12 giveaways. And now that we're officially halfway through our Boobsmas festivities, it's time to step away from the tree and put down the stockings, because today is all about Boobsmaca. Today, I'm joined by Stacey Agdern, author of Miracles and Menorahs, the first book in the Friendships and Festivals series, and one that you'll be hearing a lot more about in a future Boobsmas episode. But that's a podcast for another day. So for now, please join me in welcoming Stacey Agdern.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to have you, especially since this podcast recording has been like 2 months in the making.
Oh my gosh, I'm so happy to be here. And I'm just really, really excited to be here today. It's going to be really, really good. I'm excited.
Yay. Well, and I know this seems weird because, at the time of our recording, it's still very much autumn. I am literally looking outside at leaves falling off of the tree in the courtyard. But that being said, happy Hanukkah.
Thank you so much. It's for me, it's because I started watching the Hallmark Christmas movies last night.
Yes.
This past weekend, Hanukkah season has started. So I will totally take any and all happy Hanukkah wishes. Happy Hanukkah to everybody who's listening, and Merry Christmas if you're celebrating as well.
Yeah, so much to celebrate this time of year.
Very much so.
I know that holiday festivities in 2020 are probably going to look a little different for a lot of people. But Stacey, in general, how do you celebrate the holidays?
So in the before, one of my favorite parts of celebrating Hanukkah in specific was the fact that my brother threw this amazing party he used to call Latkapalooza.
Nice.
With friends and family in his apartment in Brooklyn. My sister-in-law brought a gingerbread house, and it was just an amazing sort of part of the festivities. This year, my sneaking suspicion is that my Hanukkah celebrations will be much more like our Passover celebrations. We had virtual gatherings, and I remember that particular week of Passover, we didn't just have the two traditional seders connected through the internet, but I ended up going to two family seders, one friend's seder on the next day, and then there was this seder sort of type fundraiser that I attended as well virtually.
Oh, nice.
So it was I had never celebrated had never been to so many seders in my life, but in a row. But the thing was, because we needed that togetherness, because we needed that connection, it was the perfect amount of gatherings for this year. And I suspect that Hanukkah will be similar.
Yeah, I'm with you though, where I know I'm going to see my parents, but I don't necessarily anticipate seeing, the whole family together on Christmas, which is both odd just because it's, not the usual, but also I do like this idea of being able to, maybe see people that you wouldn't necessarily get to see in person anyway, and have these Zoom hangouts, Skype hangouts, whatever it might be. So yeah, I know it's going to be a weird time for everybody, but that also gives me comfort knowing that it's a weird time for everybody.
Exactly.
We are all in it together.
Exactly. Like we're all attempting to navigate this really difficult time, at the same time. So we can always like ask other people, like, how have you celebrated? Like, what's
Right.
been going on? Like, what is your family doing? Oh, great. And then sort of like use ideas that they've given us and sort of share our own.
Hmm.
It was one of the things that I was thinking of when people were talking on Twitter earlier today about how they were going to handle
Right.
the holidays. And I was like, I remember Passover. I remember
Hmm.
like as I said, like I remember what my family did during Passover, like which is for us in general, for Jews in general, like the holiday where everybody gathers, and like how important that is, and like how we dealt with that.
And it's good that you still found a way to gather. It might not have been in person, but
But
there are still wonderful ways that you can do it thanks to technology.
exactly.
That's awesome. Well, okay,
Mhm.
so perfect that you bring up Passover and the holidays because whether you've listened to the podcast or not, Stacey, you will probably know that I love to eat.
Mhm.
So please tell me, what is your favorite foodie thing about the holidays? Like maybe it's a favorite meal you like to prepare or a sweet treat that you like to bake. What do you got?
So I have a guilty pleasure, first of all, which
Okay.
is eggnog. I will get it
Oh.
pretty much anywhere I can. The last couple of years, we discovered a sort of a dairy-free version of eggnog, so that's been the most amazing thing.
So just
Um,
nog.
exactly, and it has the same taste, and it's amazing, and it's wonderful. One of my other favorite things, of course, when we talk about the holidays, we talk about food, we gotta mention latkes.
Yeah.
For me, there is no Hanukkah without latkes. I happen to be on the side of applesauce as
I
a
was
dipping
about
sauce.
I was about to
Yep,
ask because I feel like whenever latkes come up, the follow-up question has to be applesauce or sour cream.
right. Exactly. And like for me, I like applesauce, A, because of the taste, but also like the maneuverability of applesauce as a food. Like you can, if you are kosher, if you follow the dietary laws and you're kosher and you can't have milk with meat, you can always have applesauce.
Yeah, good point.
And I'm also a sucker for the sort of the salty sweet combination. So like, the crispy, salty sort of latkes dipped in that applesauce, and I am the happiest person on this planet.
I am a fan of both. Like,
Mhm.
I think they both have their merits for sure. Like, if you want something a little more savory or if
Yeah.
you want something a little more sweet, I like them both. I will not, though, mix them.
Oh God, no, nope.
I find
Never,
that
never the
weird.
twain shall meet. No. Yeah, that's just not. I mean, people can love what they love, but personally, it's not something that I would ever do either for a lot of different reasons. But that's one of them.
I'm with you. Well, and you mentioned eggnog, which I think too is like sort of one of those things that people are on like polar opposites
Yep.
with. Like they either love it or can't
Hmm.
stand it.
Yes. I tend to be also like. It's interesting because I also like candy corn, and I am
Oh,
also a huge
no.
Yes, I am also a Peeps fan.
Oh, Stacey, what are we going to do with you? I was going to say too, like, you said guilty pleasure. You shouldn't feel guilty about that. But no, I think you should because those are all gross.
So, so the thing about I was talking about growing up, I was talking about being kosher when I was a kid, or I talked about being kosher. I grew up in a kosher household. And so when we think about things that you cannot get as a general rule in a kosher household, one of those things is marshmallows.
Mm,
So as an adult, pretty much anything marshmallow related I want. It's
got it.
kind of a thing. It's sort of this, you grow up in and so like Peeps are one of those things. And because so many people don't like them, my friends who got Easter baskets or otherwise knew that after Passover they would give me their leftover and unwanted Peeps.
And then you can hoard them for the rest of the year because they never,
Exactly.
ever go bad.
Yes, you can have a little bit of joy like any time of the year. I have to say though that one of the most amazing gifts I have ever gotten was, and it was from someone who I was talking to, was a librarian. No, she ran a book club at a library on Long Island. And we'd been talking, and I talked about Peeps, and she was like, she was really excited. And so we were both going to be at the Long Island Romance Writers Luncheon. And I went to my chair. And on my chair was this bag of like tons of Peeps and a stuffed Peep as well.
What?
So like a plush Peep, like this little like pink stuffed animal that looked like a Peep.
Okay.
And it's the most amazing present I have ever been given, like most thoughtful. And so that particular stuffed Peep stays with me.
All year long.
Yep, exactly. Like, no, it was amazing.
Well, I can't say that I support your Peep obsession, but, I'm not eating them, so you can have my share of them.
Exactly.
So I feel like it works out for both of us. Now, candy corn, I absolutely will not get on board with, but again, less for me, more for you.
Exactly.
Fine. Okay, well, why don't we start talking about your origin story when it comes to romance? So, I mean, before we get into your new book and your writing, I'd love to know just sort of how did you come into reading romance in the first place? And if you can, do you remember the first romance novel you read?
So the first romance novel that I read was by Joanna Lindsay.
Oh, good.
Cannot remember the name of it at the moment, but it's about a Viking, a cursed sword, until forever.
Okay.
And the story is the following. My mom is a huge romance reader.
Mine too.
And for years, I refused to look at them. I refused because I had this idea in my head of what they were. My mother developed a habit of putting books on the corner of her nightstand.
Mm-hmm.
And so over the summers, I would come home from college specifically. This is when this happened. And she put particular books on the corner. And one particular day, she'd put Until Forever on the corner. And I was like, oh my God. And so I picked it up. And it was unlike... First of all, it was contemporary.
Okay.
Second of all, it had paranormal elements. So, like, the heroine was an archaeology professor. There was a cursed sword and a Viking attached to it. And I was just like, this is amazing. It completely destroyed all of those preconceived notions that I had about the genre and sort of dovetailed with the other things that I was looking for. Because I read science fiction, I read thrillers, and I read a lot of Sweet Valley High and, like, a lot of sort of, like, the young adult books that were around when I was a kid. And so I was at the time searching for emotional development in characters. That was the thing I wanted the most. Searching for it in science fiction, searching for it in thrillers, searching for it pretty much wherever I could find it. And then to pick up Until Forever and go, wait a second, you mean all of the emotional development I ever wanted in a character, in a story, and action paranormal? Yes, please. The next book that she gave me was, I think it's called Waiting for Nick by Nora Roberts. And that was half of sort of what got me, because it was very similar to a situation that I was going through at the time. And my mother was kind of like, here, you should read this and feel better about life, liberty, and existence. And it worked.
Thanks, Mom.
Exactly. And then to tie it all together, there had been a Borders next to where my mother was working at the time. This was now a couple of years. Yeah. There had been a sale and she came home with like a whole bunch of books, including one. And she said, I thought this was something that I would like, but I'm not sure that it's something I would like. Maybe you would. Mm-hmm. Now, for the record, my mother does not read paranormal romance. My mother reads contemporary or historical.
Okay.
This was called The Star Princess.
Okay, that's the most contemporary.
How transparent. Exactly. Like this was clearly not from my mother, and it was Susan Grant's The Star Princess, and I was like, this is amazing. I loved it, and that was it. I was done. I was hooked completely.
Good.
So that was the progression, and that was how it went, and I fell hard. So
maybe it was just like, I mean, it's interesting because you mentioned that like she'd been keeping books on her nightstand and like those hadn't appealed to you until this one specific book. So I'm wondering like what it was about this book. Like, was it the paranormal aspect? Was it the fact that it was contemporary and not historical? Like, what about that book?
So it was contemporary, not historical. There was a paranormal aspect, and the heroine was an archaeology professor. Like it seemed very
Mm.
much in the vein of what I was reading in every other subgenre that I was reading at the time. My favorite Tom Clancy, for example, like when I was, because that was also what I was reading around that time,
Hmm.
was Without Remorse, which is the story of Mr. Clark, but it's also, I would argue, it's a romance novel.
Oh,
Because fundamentally speaking, Without Remorse is, yes, it's about Mr. Clark, but it's also about the relationship that he has with the woman who would become his wife and how that relationship kind of formed him as a person. And I
interesting.
and I think that if you take that relationship out, that book falls apart. And so finding those strong female characters in romantic relationships for me was like, that was what I was looking for, sort of this idea of like emotional development in characters, though I wasn't necessarily willing to say the words romance.
Hmm.
Because yes, there is a difference, but at the same time, that's kind of the side of emotional development that I was looking for. Like my early sort of favorite romance novels, and I guess, like generally speaking, one of the tropes that as a reader I'm a sucker for is the tortured hero, is the hero who learns to figure out his emotions, and
Okay.
that's where I was drawn in as a reader.
Everybody has their favorites.
Yes.
I love it. And well,
Yes.
and then, okay, so going from then being a reader to a
Hmm.
writer, how did you sort of dive into writing romance?
So I think in conjunction with all of this sort of realization on the reader side, there was a point where I was like, oh, wait a second, you mean this is what I've been writing all this time?
Yeah.
It was this idea of, oh, wait a second, you mean all these stories that had to do with people who fell in love, you mean that's a thing? If that makes sense. Which it wasn't necessarily like a slow realization. It was, oh, wait. And like I remember reading, at the time I was writing a lot of paranormal romance for a lot of reasons.
Mm.
And when I read books like, the Dark Hunter series, when I read all of, more of Susan Grant, Susan Squires, and all of those like comparatively early, like paranormal romance, science fiction romance writers, I was like, okay, this is what I've been doing all this time. Okay, this makes sense now.
You had a box to finally like fit it in.
Exactly. That was, I had a name for it. I had sort of an understanding that no, I was not writing out of nowhere, that I was actually writing, in conjunction with a long tradition, with like other, that I wasn't the only one doing this, there was actually a community
Oh
involved.
gosh,
So,
and what a
yeah.
community it is too.
Yes. Yes. No,
I
it's
love it.
it's definitely like it was such a great feeling too. Like sort of this idea of there is a place, I have people kind of thing, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, for sure. I love it. I mean, it's you kind of went from writing romance without even realizing that you were writing romance to then, I mean, I did something similar when I started the podcast. Was I've been a long time reader. I had no
Mhm.
idea that there was such a vast romance reading, writing, podcasting, blogging
Oh yeah.
community. Like I had no
Hmm.
idea until I started the podcast.
I know, it's great. Like I had like the similar realization sort of came into play when I was a bookseller for 10 years. And so like being a romance reader, going from that point to being a bookseller, an independent bookstore who wanted to, who was basically like the romance guru who became like the romance expert who became like the romance buyer for the store. Like
Mm,
the exposure to so many subgenres and authors and
yes.
like readers was just amazing.
Yeah, which is why we always tell everybody, especially our newer guests and people who haven't read as much romance as you and I have, that you can't judge a whole genre based off of one book.
No, you
Maybe
can't.
you just haven't found that Joanna Lindsay book that you've been looking for.
Exactly. Like when I was a bookseller, when I was recommending people their first romances, because that happened a lot. It was great. I had so much fun doing it.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
It's also like very sort of subjective. Like romance as a genre is a very subjective genre in a lot of ways, because there is such a vast catalog of stories and authors. It's an easier task to figure out what someone might possibly like in a romance than sort of generally sort of give someone a book, if that makes any sense. Like I would ask 20 million questions. What's your favorite movie? Like, book did you just finish? And why did you like it? Or why did you put it down? And so I could find a romance novel that would be hopefully perfect for that person. And most of the time I was right, because I feel like it's a genre that you can't just randomly pick. I don't necessarily, like for romance in particular, like it's definitely not a genre you can just pick up a random book and be like, here, take this,
Right.
Your first romance has to be, I think, like the first romance that resonates has to be something that resonates with you otherwise.
Yeah, like there are certain books that I'll recommend to people where I'll say, this is one of those books where I think it's so great. I can't imagine anybody not loving this book, and I'll consider those to be sort of like the safe, modern, contemporary, rom-com, like similar to something you might see in a movie. But I mean, even then, there's plenty of people who don't like reading contemporary. There's plenty of people who want something a little edgier, more angst than your typical rom-com. So, I mean, it's safe for me to say, but really what I'm saying is this is a good pick for anybody who is like me or who likes to read like I do.
Exactly. Like it's sort of this like, anybody who liked this movie would like this book. Like I think that's more of a like it's closer to the rubric that I was able to use when I had like an extended period of time with someone in a store.
Sure.
It's like much more, the thing about recommending someone in person is that you have, like in a store where you have the time, is that you can ask those questions. You can interrogate someone for not 5 hours, but like, an extended period of time and sort of try to pinpoint specifically the closest you can get to what would be the perfect romance for them. And hopefully you can find that on the shelf.
Yeah.
That's the thing. And I one of the big things that's changed since I've been in stores is sort of how closer to possible finding that perfect book is for a lot more people has become, if that makes sense.
Yeah, which is good.
No, it's amazing. Like that's one of the things that makes me very happy to be able to talk about is that yes, like things are changing in a positive way, and I love that.
Yeah, we've got a long ways to go, but we're definitely on our way. Well, let's talk about holiday romance specifically, because obviously you've written one, and I do want to talk about that.
Sure, yes.
Where do you stand in the way of just holiday romances in general? Do you love to read them?
So, for years, Christmas romances were my guilty pleasures.
Don't feel guilty, Stacey. No guilt.
It was more in the sense of like, I was very proud to be a Jewish woman. I was very proud to celebrate my own holidays. But at the same time, like these books were happy. They were joyous. There was warmth to them. They didn't celebrate in any way, shape, or form like my family did or anybody close to me did. But objectively, I could see how warm and joyous they were. And so I read them for years, like whether they were like part of a well-established series or a new author writing something great, I loved them. I loved those books. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why I wrote one is that I wanted to give someone the chance to get that warmth and warm and joyous feeling from a book that reflected the way they celebrated.
Oh, sure. Well, and especially, like you said, also give everybody an opportunity to celebrate who maybe hasn't seen their family represented in holiday books, because there is a dramatic lack of representation in holiday books beyond traditional Christian holidays.
Exactly. Like that holiday sort of the cultural Christian default is pretty strong. Right. And like you can definitely see that in terms of holiday books, which mostly are Christmas books, which, they, even though the word is not interchangeable, it's, it's nice to sort of have the chance to be like one of the people who are changing that.
Yes.
Who are sort of altering that default.
And I love it because I know I'm somebody who celebrates Christmas, but I am not religious whatsoever. And I love reading about and watching, different families stories and how they celebrate. Like, this is why I love the holidays,
Mhm.
and I love doing the 12 Days of Boobs Myths, is because I
Mhm.
love talking to my guests who all have a different way that they celebrate during December.
I've always called this season, I've always called sort of this period of time from like, mid-November to December, the season of light and miracles, because all of these
Mm.
holidays that we celebrate around this time have that in common. However you celebrate, 90% of the time, those holidays will either encompass one of those two things. And I love how that works and ties in together, especially when winter can be so dark generally, and especially this
Yes,
year where like most of the winter you see is through your window.
it's true. It's very true. Well, okay, let's talk about your book, Miracles and Menorahs, which is available now. So, first of all, correct me if I'm wrong, but is this your first published full-length novel?
Yes, it is.
Oh,
I have been involved in tons of different amazing anthologies with different people. I've even published an essay in a collection, but this is the first. Yes, this is my
how
first solo single
exciting.
title.
Well,
Yeah.
congratulations.
Thank you.
That's
Uh,
something to celebrate, with light and miracles alone.
yeah. No, it's been a long journey, and every time I think about it, I sort of find myself realizing like how lucky I am that I get to do this, that I got the chance. So,
Yay. Well, and we will, again, I already mentioned it, but we will be discussing Miracles and Menorahs in an upcoming episode. So we won't be giving away any spoilers just this second. But Stacey, can you give everyone just sort of a basic premise of your book?
sure. The town of Hollowville has, for the last 9 years, had a Hanukkah festival. In year 10, where the book begins, there is a threat. A new member of the town council wants to change it, wants to change the festival and take it away from its Hanukkah-based origins, which means the heroine, our vice chair of the festival committee, needs to work fast to make this year's the 10th anniversary festival the best that it can possibly be. And
Mm.
her first thought is a menorah. She wants to get a menorah. And so she is helped by an older member of both the Hollowville Hebrew congregation and the festival sort of committee, generally speaking, who says, I have a grandson who is a metal sculptor who can make the perfect menorah. Of course,
Yes.
our hero, Isaac, loves Hanukkah very much like our heroine does, but for him, Hanukkah is a small sort of celebrate with your family and found family in like small spaces,
Mm.
not a commercially huge event. So the question is, and so of course they meet and sparks fly. And is there a menorah at the end? Is there romance at the end?
Yes.
Need miracles and menorahs to find out.
There better be. That's
Yes.
all I can say.
Yes. Yes. There is absolutely, without giving away spoilers, yes, there is absolutely an HFN.
I have to say too, because just when reading the blurb for this book, I immediately started channeling like some of my favorite like TV Hallmark Christmas movies in my
Yes.
head. But
Yes.
of course, Hanukkah. And so imagine my excitement when I read a blurb on your website which said, what happens when a Jewish writer watches too many Christmas
Yes.
movies and
Yeah.
wonders what if. So I'm going to take a wild guess and say that perhaps your love of holiday movies influenced your decision to write this book.
Yes, absolutely. So I was involved in an amazing project called the Rogue Anthology starting in 2017. I wrote 4 stories with a bunch of amazing people: Tamsin Parker, Zoe York, Suleika Snyder, Emma Barry, Olivia Dade, like the list of amazing, Melissa
Yes.
Blue, like the list of amazing writers that participated in this, Andy J. Christopher, like the list of amazing writers that participated in this project, for like goes on and on and on. Like there were 7 volumes. It was amazing. I wrote 4 stories. And when I talk about my writing generally, like what happens is that like for every other story that I had written before the stories that I wrote for the Rogue Anthology, I processed things, but not directly, if that makes any sense at all.
Tell me more.
So the Rogue anthologies were basically me writing my feelings, my political angst, my angst about a whole bunch of different things, and writing and giving myself the happy ever after I could not find in reality. The stories that I wrote beforehand were sort of me dealing with things, but not directly.
Okay, got it.
Like all 4 stories that I wrote for the Rogue anthologies confronted a particular idea or issue head on.
That's cool.
And I gave myself a happy ever after. But the thing is, when that happens, like after writing those 4 stories in a very short amount of time, I needed a brain break. I needed something to sort of I needed to give my brain a fuzzy blanket. And so I started watching a lot of the Hallmark Christmas movies. Tons of them.
As we do.
Exactly. I watched them anyway, but like I watched more of them, and I watched them regularly. And like as I dealt with my political feelings outside, I was watching these movies to kind of calm myself and sort of give myself a fuzzy blanket. But of course, like after I watched a bunch of them, me being me, because I'm very much like Sarah in certain respects. As I said, I own a menorah hat now. I couldn't help myself. A lot of the stories that I write start with a what if premise. So I couldn't help but wonder, like, what if there was a Hanukkah festival? What if it was a large part of a small town's existence? What if, and the question sort of continued from there, and so did the story.
I love that. It
was a completely different process than anything I'd ever written before. And it felt, but at the same time, it's so very me. You know.
I mean, it sounds very therapeutic.
It was. I can absolutely say it was. You know, I was putting joy and hope and Hanukkah on the page in a way that I'd never seen before in certain ways. And yet I was also like giving myself something happy, something like joyous, something beautiful.
Yeah, which we all deserve year round, first of all, but especially during, you know, uncertain times like these. I mean, I love that phrase, a fuzzy, warm blanket, like for my brain. I know that I could use one of those a lot more often than I give it to myself. So I totally understand.
Yeah, like it's so important, especially these days, because like we're going, you know, time means nothing, space means nothing. Like we're going 24/7, you know, worrying about the next crisis, what's going on, you know. At the same time, like we need to continue, you know, like continuing on to the next day. And so like the fuzzy blanket is so crucial, I think.
Absolutely. Metaphorically and literally.
Exactly. Very much so. Very much so.
I know. It's that time of year too where I've definitely started you know, breaking out the holiday movies, and I'm looking forward to, I mean, as many issues as Hallmark Channel has in general, I do look forward to, you know, the movies on Hallmark and Lifetime, and now Netflix does them as well, you know, every year.
No, it's awesome. Like I love the cooking shows and stuff on Netflix. And I think the documentaries and stuff, they're so much fun. And I'm excited to watch on December 20th, the Hallmark Hanukkah movie, which is kind of interesting because like last year, both like Hallmark and Lifetime had like Hanukkah Christmas movies, and I was hoping that Lifetime would have a Hanukkah movie this year too, but they don't. But yet Hallmark does, which is kind of amazing.
Interesting.
And I love the changes that are being made across the board, but I just found that sort of a really interesting little statistic about like all of the networks that have holiday movies. Or should I say Christmas movies?
Yeah, exactly. Well, and the changes need to be made because, you know, I'm sure the two of us have been watching these movies for many, many years. And it's, oh gosh, the lack of diversity and representation, especially on Hallmark, is absolutely ridiculous in the year 2020.
No.
So,
and at the same time, like the lack of holiday representation on the other networks is just ridiculous. Like, I love seeing more Black actors and Latinx actors and more on all of the different networks. But like the lack of non-Christian holidays on the other networks is kind of like interesting and fascinating.
Yeah, it is, because and that's the perfect way to describe it, because it really is just, it's so interesting to me. Like that's the thing that we're still holding back on, like, because we do see, and clearly not enough, but we are seeing more racial diversity. We're seeing a little bit more of like queer representation.
Yeah, which is really awesome.
Yeah, exactly. But still no Hanukkah.
Yeah, exactly. Like
that seems like one of the safest things that any of these networks.
Except apparently not so much. It's yeah, that to me is like I love watching Jingle Bell Bride, which was the first Hallmark movie this year. It's amazing.
I haven't watched that one yet. I'm gonna have to check it out.
Oh my god, it's so cute. And then I need to finish Deliver Me on Christmas, I want to say, which was I think the second of the Hallmark Movies and Mysteries movies. I need to.
Okay. So you like go hard. Like you're like, I've got it on my calendar. I am ready for the next one.
Yep, pretty much.
Do you have a favorite? Do you have a favorite Hallmark or whatever network holiday movie?
So I have a couple. I have huge soft spot for Miss Christmas.
Okay.
Which is a Hallmark movie from I think 1997.
Ooh, an oldie.
Sorry, not 97. Sorry, like I want to say 2017. Sorry, my brain is not working.
Oh, so not quite so old.
No, not quite so old. Yeah, Miss Christmas 2017. The plot is basically like the heroine works for the Chicago equivalent of Rockefeller Center, and needs a tree for the
okay. Yep, for
Christmas
the tree lighting.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And the hero lives on a gorgeous farm area, and his family has this perfect tree that is nominated by someone else who is not him.
I'm a fan. I do. And what's so funny is like, as many of these as I watch, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, there's still room for more, I guess. Mm-hmm. Like it's just, oh god, I mean I've seen the same, cookie decorating montage in like 30 movies, but it never fails to entertain me.
No, it's great. It's just so great to watch. It's so, and of course it makes you want cookies.
Mm-hmm.
The other one that I absolutely adore is Holiday Date, which was last year.
Okay.
It starred Chris Polaha and the heroine, I forget who it was, Carly Pope.
Okay.
She is Jewish, he is Christian, and it was like, I like Holiday Date, which was the one before it, but like the strength of this movie was how equally they treated both holidays and how correctly they got the sort of understanding of both holidays that people who celebrate either ones have, if that makes any sense.
What was this one called again?
It was called Double Holiday.
Double Holiday. Cool.
Yeah,
okay, yeah.
It was the office party where like where the boss asks the two of them to put together this party.
I don't think I saw that one. And Christopher Polaha is like one of my preferred actors of like the Hallmark movies.
Yep.
I do enjoy watching him.
He's amazing in this part for sure.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I'm a sucker. My two that if they're on TV during the holidays, I will always watch and or DVR are The Most Wonderful Time of Year, which is, I want to say at this point, it's probably like a good 10 years older or something, like 2000s maybe.
Okay.
And it's where I know Henry Winkler, aka the Fonz, is in it as like the older uncle of like the main character. And he meets this hot dude on a plane and basically convinces him to like come.
Oh my god, I think I've seen snippets of this because
it's
oh my
so
god,
good. He's like a drifter and he like comes and brings him into the family and they like have Christmas, and he's obviously trying to like trick his niece into like setting them up together. Oh, it's so cute.
Oh my god.
I love that one. And then the other one, which isn't as good, but I actually like the cast in this one. You know what? I might not even know the name. I know that it's got Gretchen Wieners from Mean Girls because she's in, all the best holiday movies. And I think the guy's name is Brandon Elliott, Brandon Elliott, something like that. And he's like the music teacher at a school, and they went to high school together way back when, but she doesn't really remember him because he was nerdy. And now he's teaching her daughter, you know, to sing or whatever for like the holiday concert at school. And then Mariah Carey just is randomly there.
Yes.
And she is absolutely horrendous, but I love it so much. I want to say
so much fun. Yeah, I think it's like All I Want for Christmas or something like that. Was that the one?
Maybe.
Like, yeah, because like the whole point of it, like, yeah. And Mariah Carey was like the mother of one of the other kids.
Yeah, and she and Gretchen Wieners are supposed to be like the same age, which I found very comical because they look nothing alike. And but no, there's I'm trying to it's called A Christmas Melody. And it's great because I'm pretty sure the only reason Mariah Carey's there is because at the end, the little girl sings a holiday song that's like written by Mariah Carey. So I can just see her being like, well, you can use my song if I get to play like the bitch teacher in it. It's, oh God, it's so great.
Love it. Oh my God. Yeah, I definitely have seen it. Was it 2 years ago or last year? I'm trying to remember. Time means nothing, but like.
Yeah, it's been a few years, but it's one of those ones where they usually have it on every year. And I think it's one of the few where the couple has like pretty good chemistry, and it's not. This is what I love in romance is I love a happily for now, not necessarily like a happily ever after, because I don't necessarily buy into people falling in love in like a week.
Yeah.
So maybe that's just my Grinch heart speaking, but that's where I am at with my endings in romance. I love to see that final kiss or that final commitment that doesn't necessarily involve an engagement ring.
Yep, that's actually like not so much spoiler, but yes.
We're on the same page. We
are very much on the same page.
I love it. Well, now that we've spent, like an hour talking about Christmas movies, I do want to mention that I absolutely love the fact that you put together a Spotify playlist for Miracles and Menorahs. And I'm just curious, is this something that you do for all of your stories and it's just like a part of your process?
So it absolutely is a part of my process. I do every single story gets a playlist. And it changes and evolves with the story. I am a huge music person. I listen to a lot of different stuff. And sort of one of the very first things that I do when I'm writing a story is I think about like what kind of mood I want to feel, I guess, when I'm writing it, what kind of feeling that I want to create in the story itself. And then I think about songs that hit that mood or that feeling. And sometimes those original songs stay and sometimes they don't, but it's really, really helpful for me to sort of put them together because it jumpstarts my creative process. Someone actually once joked that my playlist was my outline, and in a lot of ways that is absolutely the case.
Oh, so this is the playlist that you actually listen to while you're putting together the story.
Yes, very much so. It is actually one of the very few things I can listen to when writing, when I'm deep in drafting mode and in revision too, because like I can't listen to new stuff. I've got to just listen to the playlist. I need words.
Okay.
It's like, it's mostly lyrical. There isn't very much instrumental unless the moment will call for it. Like I'll listen to it when I'm outside in the backyard walking. I'll listen to it pretty much all of the time when I'm writing a story. The fun things about that particular playlist is that it actually has an opening and a closing song.
I love the opening song, by the way.
Oh my gosh, I fell in love with that song. And like one of the things about it's 8 Nights by Naomi Less, who is brilliant and wonderful. She actually like if you listen to the song, it's got very similar rhythms and sort of notes to a lot of the music that they play at the opening of Hallmark movies. So in the back of my head, that was kind of like deliberate. And then at the end, Hanei Rod Halalu by 613 is the closing song, and it's a very it's like that sort of, it's got that sort of hopeful, exciting, happy, like everybody together sort of feel to it.
Oh, yes. Which again, we need it. We need it all.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah, I'm a fan. I love listening to music during the holidays. Like, I mean, as much as I love watching a, holiday movie, like the music's great because it's something that you can like throw on in the background. But it's so interesting though that you mentioned that you do like having lyrics, because I know that when I write, that almost distracts me. So the new thing I listen to as I'm writing, they have it on YouTube where you can have like 8 hours worth of rainy cafe music.
Oh, that is awesome.
And I love it. It's just, instrumental. And then occasionally, depending on the track you're listening to, they might play like the sound of someone opening a door or somebody picking up their coffee. And I just love it because I miss going to coffee shops.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That would be amazing.
Yeah, like, so check it out.
No, definitely. Like the thing about the songs with lyrics for like my playlists is that like it's all about what it's supposed to do, right? Like it's supposed to create that atmosphere. It's supposed to create that like moment in a book. And like I love the idea of sort of that kind of like the sort of atmospheric like scene playlist too, because it does the same thing.
Yeah.
It evokes, like it's supposed to evoke, like if it's a cafe or a rain or whatever, like that's what it's supposed to evoke. And like the same, it's kind of what I'm trying to do with the songs on my playlist, and that evokes whether it's a scene or a mood or a feeling or something like that. So
yeah, whatever works for you.
Exactly.
And then I get to reap the benefits by enjoying the book and the playlist. So yes. Whatever. Oh, well, do you have any spoilers or sneak peeks you can offer us for the future Friendships and Festivals books? Because I know from your website that there's at least a second one to expect in 2021.
So at some point in the story, Anna has some unfinished business that she has to take care of. So that the story of the unfinished business is book 2.
Okay.
She goes for work primarily. She goes to a small town on Long Island to take care of, not deliberately take care of the unfinished business, but the unfinished business shows up and she has to take care of it, basically.
That's so like unfinished business, just showing up.
Exactly. Batya, who is the third member of the friend group, also has unfinished business, except her unfinished business will be another Hanukkah story.
Oh, good. So something to look forward to in fall of 2021, perhaps?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Anna's book is a June book, June 24th. The title is History of Us.
Okay. Well, lots to look forward to then in the series.
I'm excited. I'm currently revising Anna's book at the moment, and it's amazing. I'm having a grand old time with it. So.
Oh, I'm excited. Well, I'm going to wrap things up with you here in a moment, but before we do so, I do want to ask you something that I'm always curious to hear from writers, which is there a story that you are just dying to write?
There are a few of them. Let me think of which one to talk about.
Yeah, I don't want you to spoil all of your secret work in progresses.
Well, there's a women's hockey series that I want to work with.
Yes.
There's a sort of like a crossover between hockey and music that I want to write. I have this golem story that I've been playing with, this urban fantasy romance golem story that I've been working with for years and trying to sort of figure out. I think it's probably waiting for me to be a better writer until I can figure it out. So
interesting. I love that we went from hockey and music to urban fantasy series.
Hey, and then there's one more that I'm working on, and hopefully I will finish it, and then I can hopefully talk about it.
Yay. Well, lots of things and I love that
Yes.
you have a variety of stuff as well, because I feel like too often, writers can get kind of like pigeonholed in like a specific genre, subgenre,
Mhm.
trope. But no, this is great. And like you said, the more you write, the better writer you'll be. And then you can expand even further.
Exactly. Like I genuinely like I think all writers have like a sort of an imaginary project file of like or imaginary or actual project file of things that they've always wanted to do or things that fascinate them, and like that's where they get stories from, right? Like sort
Yeah.
of I've got this imaginary file cabinet full of like stories and ideas that I've wanted to work with and play with for a while, and eventually they get ready and eventually I can work with them. I definitely have no shortage of ideas, I guess is what I'm trying to say here.
It's just a matter of putting the pen to paper.
Exactly.
I get it. I totally get that one for sure. I keep my ideas in the storage cabinet in my brain. So
Hmm.
I'm with you. It's all about writing them down eventually.
Exactly. And whether like which one is ready to write and which one is not, and which one is just this random idea that you get during a stress dream. You like,
Which happens far too often.
oh my God, yes.
So Stacey, as we wrap things up, I'd love to know where everybody can find and follow you.
So my website is staceyagdern.com. I am on Twitter as NYStacey, on Instagram as Agdern, and I think I am Stacey A. Agdern on Facebook.
And as I mentioned, Stacey's book, Miracles and Menorahs, is available now where books are sold. Please, please, I will advise you to do your best to support your independent and local booksellers, especially this holiday season.
I want to give a special shout out to both Love Sweet Arrow and the Rabatas, both of whom have been amazing and wonderfully supportive during this time
Mm,
of year. They are the two exclusive bookstores that have romance exclusive bookstores, and both of them are. I am, as a debut author debuting in 2020. Um, they have been both. They have both been just amazing.
yeah,
So.
I'm a fan. I'm a fan of their shops. I lived in LA for several years, so I've
Yep.
obviously been to the Ripped Bodice my fair
Mhm.
share of times. I haven't made it out to Love Sweet Arrow yet, but now that I'm back in the Midwest, that's definitely on my to-do list. And
Yeah.
yeah, I can't talk enough good things about each of them because they're both such supportive organizations and
Yes.
so sweet, the people that work there. And if you're looking beyond romance, or you want to shop whatever bookstores in your town, that's great too. They need our business. They need our business
Yes.
now more than ever. So please, please consider shopping local when you're picking up your copy of Miracles and Menorahs and whatever holiday books that you've got in store this year. So last thing, look out for our in-depth look at Miracles and Menorahs in an upcoming Boopsmas episode. For now, I'm going to say thank you, Stacey, so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me, Kelly. This has been so much fun.
Yay, I'm so glad, and I hope that you get to celebrate with your latkes and applesauce, not sour cream, and maybe a little side of Peeps this holiday season.
Thank you. May your Christmas be amazing and beautiful and joyous.
Thank you. Thanks so much for listening. Boobies and Newbies is part of the Frolic Podcast Network. Find more podcasts you'll love at frolic.media/podcasts. You can follow Boobies and Newbies on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Boobies Podcast.